Hey, friends, family in Christ, we are smack in the middle of Natural Family Month, formerly known as Pride Month. And how are things going? I'm going to talk to today's guest, George Carneal, about that. A lot of events happening. There are conflicting reports. For example, here are just a few headlines. There was a Pride event canceled because of low attendance, and some say the American people are fed up. Also, Minneapolis, there's an elementary school plan. They planned a gay pride dance party for kids as young as 5. Also, parents lost appeal over a school's gender identity notification policy. Nebraska becomes the 29th state to protect girls' sports. And over in Australia, a new law in Australia makes certain prayers unlawful. We'll talk about that and more coming up.
Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
All right, welcome, guys. We are going to bring in one of our favorite troublemakers for the kingdom of God, George Carneal. I love this brother and the stance he's taken. Brother, let's just bring you in and get this thing going. We've got a lot of articles, a lot of news happening, and there's some confusion because of the conflicting reports on whether there's still a lot of support for Pride or whether the American people are really fed up with it. So welcome. Good to see you again, brother.
Good to see you too, David. Thanks
All
for
right,
having me.
your website, georgecarneal.com. So your book, you can get that on Amazon or through your website. Is that right?
It's the information's on the website, but you can get the book through Amazon and other places. It's listed on there.
From Queer to Christ. George has an amazing testimony, friends. If you haven't heard or read about that, you can get that in the book, or you can always go to worldviewmatters.tv, and in the upper right-hand search, you can type in George Carneal, and we've got many, many episodes with him and I talking about things that matter. That's why we bring him on, for his background, his understanding of this demonic agenda. So right off the top, George, before we get into some of the articles, do you think, your sense that this locomotive, this demonic LGBTQ locomotive, is still plowing through American culture and the country? Or, I know there's pushback, has there been enough to make a dent? Your thoughts?
I am pleased with the way this train is rolling. And I will say that there are a lot of gays and lesbians on social media as well, which may be surprising to people who are sick of it as well. They know that gays aren't being rounded up. We have all the rights you need, and nobody's being targeted. And they're just fed up with the insanity. They would like to see this to end as well. And they want the corporations to stop pandering to this insanity and to the pride events. So I'm very encouraged by it.
So let's talk about corporations. I've talked with a few other guests about this. It seems that some have backed off a little. Target, for example, they have not backed off, but they have less Pride merchandise, from what I understand, in their stores. They started providing all that in, I think, 2011, 2012. Then they got into the bathroom idiocy with the transgender ideology in about 2016, took that stance, lost a lot of customers. Their stock plummeted, but right now, finally, I think they're making some adjustments. But it doesn't say that Target is not supporting the agenda anymore, right? So some corporations like Disney, Target, and others, they may be pulling back in some areas, but the ideology goes deep, doesn't it?
Yes, and I'm hearing that some, while they are publicly withdrawing their funds, so to speak, they are privately still sending them money.
Yes.
So you got to be careful about that. We've got a bunch of snakes out there. I don't know at what point these corporations aren't going to wake up and finally start listening to the American people. We are sick of this agenda. What people do in the privacy of their home is their business, but going out on the streets and waving your half-naked butts in front of children and dykes on bikes bearing their breasts and gyrating on floats in your little G-strings, nothing to be prideful about. It's sickening, it's disgusting, and thankfully there are a lot of fair-minded gays and lesbians who resent that this is what is being represented to the culture, that this is what we are or who they are. And I'm not speaking from being in the lifestyle. My identity is in Christ. I'm just talking about when I was even in it and watched these parades. I found them to be disgusting.
Yeah, and you're not exaggerating, and what you described is pretty mild compared to what you can see in some cities, some woke cities with some of these pride displays. It is perversion. So there is one in Boise, Idaho, at least one. Hopefully, there's a lot more than that, where a pride event was canceled, and that was for June 6th. Boise, Idaho. They failed to sell enough tickets. I say thank God. So maybe more people are saying, well, maybe, George, people are understanding that they've really been going after children in these past several decades. And that's what I think is offensive to a lot of people. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. For years, David, as you know, people have been saying in various social media outlets and in television outlets, to leave the children alone. And they didn't listen. And I don't think that the fair-minded gays and lesbians really were vocal enough about this. So they're now reaping what they've sown. People are fed up. I said years ago, you got to leave the kids alone. What you do in the bedroom is your business. Stop pushing this. I knew that once the gay marriage was signed, and this was when I was in the lifestyle, I knew that one day they're going to shove this down the throats of the American people to the point of where there's going to be a backlash. I saw that when I was in the lifestyle because I was around a lot of the militant activists, and I thought, nope, this is going to backfire. And so you reap what you sow.
So let's be clear, friends. We are encouraged by some of the direction many in the country or culture are taking. Government schools are a whole nother story. But the Trump administration, some of the executive orders, some of the things that organizations are doing. Let me just read one more sentence or two from this article. By the way, this one is over at harbingersdaily.com. It says the cancellation comes amid a national shift away from pride as the corporate world has started. Remember, friends, this is deeply entrenched. They've started withdrawing some of its support from parades in major cities like New York. According to the Times, the New York Times, 25% of corporate sponsors have either withdrawn or heavily reduced their financial sponsorship for Heritage Pride. Example, they produced the New York Pride event. So there's a lot more. I just read about another one. I don't remember. I think it was Disney, George, that pulled certain pride propaganda, but then they supported a pride parade. I think it might have been also New York. But your thoughts on this, and again, the whole title here, Conflicting Reports, but remember how many decades they have advanced this agenda. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're not going to stop. Now, the corporations may pull their funding, but these people will not stop until they get everything they want. And David, you know this. There is an agenda behind this agenda. People pulling the strings, and we're talking about a whole Marxist communist reason and everything to do with just destroying the family unit, to promoting degeneracy. It's a full-on slap in the face of God. We know that. We know that this is more of a spiritual warfare. So don't think just because corporations pull their funding that these people are just going to go, oh, we can just go home now. It's over with. It's not going to happen. They're not going to stop.
That's
they'll
right.
just they'll execute a new plan.
Or they'll find other ways. It's still happening, friends, and we've got a lot of resisting and fighting back to do. But let's just, and one other example to help people discern, George. Benny Johnson posted this on his Facebook on June 1st. He said, culture is changing. For the past several years, thousands of major corporations rushed to change their logos on June 1st for Pride Month. This year, it's really hard to find a Fortune 500 corporation engaging in the ritual. Here are some examples. And then he just showed this. Now, this doesn't mean that they have pulled out completely. This simply means that I think in this case on X, Twitter, X, their profile logo pics that they used to have in rainbow in June a year ago, now they've all removed them. Apple, IBM, Hewlett-Packard, Paramount, Vogue. So that doesn't mean that they're not supporting the agenda anymore, but it means they're backing off a little bit of the public pride, maybe. Does that make sense, George? Did I explain that clearly?
Yes, that makes absolute sense. But again, even when Trump has shut down the whole DEI thing. There are still undercover footage of colleges and other places where they are still pushing it and do it secretively. They're not going to stop. You got to watch these people. I really wish people would just decide, you know what, those who pushed this all these years, I'm still going to continue to boycott them, because all they're doing is just shifting. I guarantee you, the minute Trump is out of office, if a Democrat gets back into office, these same corporations will go back to supporting this agenda.
Yep. I agree. I agree with you 100%, friends. The ideology runs deep. It really does here, because we're talking about something spiritual. We're talking about an assault on God. We're talking about an assault on the truth. We're talking about rebellion against God's creative order, male, female, marriage, family, civil government, the way he designed things. So let's go over to Wisconsin Family Action. I just got this letter that says Governor Evers, now a lot of governors are handling this different ways, but Governor Evers raised the pride flag, and sports teams elevated LGBT lifestyles, and the LGBT plus caucus in Wisconsin's capital introduced a radical legislative package. Now, one of these bills went so far as eliminating every reference to mother, father, husband, and wife in state law. So, George, get your comments on that. But first, to acknowledge what our guest last week, Scott Lively, said about when a nation would win a war, they would plant their flag in the territory in the nation of the new land that they conquered, showing that they have authority, they have conquered. The LGBT flag is waving on some state capitals on the flagpoles. This is symbolic, it is spiritual, but it's also very interesting. Your thoughts on that?
David, this is where I'm really just torn. In places where they are blue states, the conservatives have really just got to start speaking out. And I don't want to say making threats, but you got to do what you got to do to let them know we're not putting up with this anymore. They've got to start voting these Democrats out. This has nothing to do with Trump. You know, he'll be out of office soon, but it's the policies. So if you are voting Democrat, but you are incensed by these policies, don't say anything, because you are part of the problem. We've got to destroy liberalism. We've got to destroy the Democratic Party. It is a godless communist party. They are anti-God. They are anti-America, anti the family unit. They are anti-woman. They are anti-sanity. And the only way we can do this is, first of all, humbling ourselves and repenting before God and saying, we're sorry for allowing it to even get to this point. Worried about being called racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobic. We should have just fought this from the beginning, but no, we acquiesced, let them walk all over us because we were afraid of being called a name. But look at where we've gotten. We need to ask God to forgive us and to help turn this ship around and start doing some real activism.
Okay, one more brief article before we have to take a brief pause with George Carneal. Minneapolis Elementary School plans gay dance party for kids as young as 5. And yes, this is over at alphanews.org. It's unbelievable, I guess. So this is an elementary school. Friends, just because the president maybe had an executive order saying there's only male and female, there are only 2 genders, or they're pushing against pride, which is great. I'm thankful for what the administration is doing and how some are getting out there. But as I said, deeply entrenched, especially in the government schools. So this, as young as 5, George, this would have been unheard of about 10, 20 years ago. But we've recognized they are able to, meaning the left, the demoniacs, those perverts that would go after young children, they're able to access, big word, remember that, friends, access. They have access to children at younger and younger ages. This is amazing. A dance party for 5-year-olds? Your thoughts on this before we break?
First of all, it's happening only because there are going to be parents who actually support this and will bring their children to these events. It's sickening when I see especially these white liberal women who drag all of their children to these gay pride events. That's not a place where any child should be. It's a very adult-oriented in terms of what you're seeing. I don't understand the mindset of these parents. Do they have a moral compass? Do they even have a conscience? But it's not surprising, David, because a lot of people don't know what's really going on in the public school system. I can't tell you the number of reports of even, I'll give you one quick example. If your son, for instance, states to a teacher, I think I'm a female, they will start putting that boy into counseling, and they will never notify the parents that their son thinks he's a girl. And they will spend 9 months grooming that child, and they're playing with that child's mind, and they never, ever let the child know. And then one day, or the parents know, and then one day the child will come out and say, oh, daddy or mommy, I'm a girl. And you're thinking, where did this come from? And they're blindsided. But that is happening more frequently than parents know. Not to mention just teaching children about anal sex, homosexuality, anal lube, sex toys, butt plugs, masturbation, transgenderism. This is the stuff that's being taught in elementary and junior high schools. Don't think that this is a high school or an adult thing. They are targeting the children very early to mess up their minds.
That's right. Thank you for speaking the truth. It has to be done, friends. We've got to stop being silent in the face of this demonic evil. When we come back, new law criminalizes praying with someone about gender or sexual identity. And what we were referring to, parents lose appeal over schools' gender identity notification policy that's coming up.
Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream.
Get free activation now with promo code DAVID. Right now, Freedom Project Academy is enrolling students for this fall with live, anytime, or homeschool courses for pre-kindergarten through the 12th grade. And to celebrate 15 years of academic excellence at our Judeo-Christian online school, we're offering a 15% discount on all courses. Visit freedomforschool.com. That's freedom, F-O-R, school.com. Use the code DAVID15 to save 15%. That's DAVID15. At Freedom Project Academy. George Carneal, our guest today. Love you, brother. Thank you so much for your insights. I appreciate you as a straight talker, and we don't have time to sugarcoat this anymore. We've got to tell parents and sound the alarm and warn what's really happening. So that article over at Education Week, Parents Lose Appeal. This was in Massachusetts. A federal appeals court has rejected a parental rights-based objection to a Massachusetts school district's policy of allowing students to determine whether their parents should be notified about gender transitions and their choice of new names and pronouns. So, George, you mentioned this earlier on in the podcast today, that this is happening across the country. District by district. It depends on the policy, friends. And young parents, if you still have kids in the government schools, it depends on the district oftentimes and their policies. But in this case, they struck down the parents' plea to say, hey, I think we should be notified when my son or daughter does something like this. George, I know you have thoughts on this one too.
I will tell you one quick case that I had heard of, because this is going on across the whole U.S., and especially people should pay attention to the James Younger case out of Texas. Okay. I have information about him on page 5 of my website, but there was another case up in the Northwest where the daughter was put, I believe, in a hospital, I'm going by memory, for attempting to take her life. The nurses and doctors were calling her by her preferred pronoun names, but the parents were saying, that's not what we want her to be called. This is her name. They called the police. The daughter was removed from the parents, and they took her to a trans sanctuary state somewhere up in the north. And I believe they started the transitioning process before eventually putting her back into care of the parents. She may have been sent off to her biological mom up in Canada. It was a big convoluted story, but and again, I'm going by memory, but I was really just, disgusted with how easily the child was removed from the parents' custody. Yeah. They were Christian parents, and look at what happened. They shipped her off to another state. Yeah. Parents need to understand, the laws are becoming more tyrannical, where they're slowly trying to erode the rights away from the parents.
Yep.
And they're going to try to take over, and because the government is saying, we know what's best for your child, you don't. We better fight this agenda while you can.
Yeah, this is a battle, and it gets pretty intense when you talk about parents. The media, the complicit Democrat media, has framed Christian parents as radicals, out of touch, dangerous. They shouldn't be raising kids, right? They're going to extremes, and this is some of the fruit of that. Cases like this, where they say, "Oh, Christian parents, get those kids out of there," right? We could go down that road, talk more about that, but we need to move on for the sake of time. But so you better check your schools or your district's gender, what is it called? Parental notification policy on gender identity or pronouns or whatever. Make sure you understand, parents, because there is a massive fight over parental rights. Who has a right to raise the kids? We've heard leftist after leftist say, once the school gets the kids, and once you drop off your children at the government-run school, you don't have your right. It's just astounding that they believe this and say this out loud now. 50 years ago, 25 years ago, that was the quiet part, right? But now they're saying, no, if they're at the school, then the parents' rights don't. Anyway, but we don't want to beat that dead horse. But let's go over to Australia now. This is very interesting because there's a new Australian law that makes certain prayers unlawful. The government of the Australian state of New South Wales explained this Conversion Practices Ban Act 2024 allows prayer or expression of any religious belief only if it is not directed to change or suppress an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity. So basically, George, you can pray. You can still pray, but you cannot pray or when it has anything to do with converting them or giving them counsel if they're confused about their gender or if they think they are born in the wrong body. You can't pray about that. You can't advise them against that. And I know you have something to say about this one as well.
Yeah. Imagine the pastors who stand in the pulpit and just simply say, calling out homosexual the sex as an abomination. They're going to be offended by that. That's a hate speech crime. Mm-hmm. Or let me pray for the congregation and for sin. It seems to me like it will be ambiguous enough to where that anybody who has a complaint and just an axe to grind with a Christian who dares to open their mouth and even speak the truth of God's word, this is an easy way to penalize them and to silence Christians and all opposition to this agenda. But I will tell you, David, I'm going to be doing a media interview with a guy out of Australia in about a week or so, and he's connected to this somehow. So I'm hoping to get more information on what the tyranny that is happening there and exactly how they're trying to face this in light of trying to still spread the gospel.
So where do you put your interviews, George? Are they on your website or YouTube, or where can people see some of your interviews?
If they'll go to my website and scroll down to the media section, you'll see a link to my YouTube channel and to my Rumble channel. YouTube gives me a lot of strikes and they remove videos. So most likely it will be on the Rumble channel.
Rumble, yeah.
Yeah, go down a little bit more and there you go, media platforms. You'll see Rumble, BitChute, but usually I'll get it on YouTube and Rumble. I'm getting censored at every turn. So
yeah, we talked about that.
I can't even upload stuff on GoDaddy anymore. I'm so sick of it.
You haven't gotten to the bottom of that yet? You're paying the fee and you can't upload? Oh.
Right. So Vimeo, who is doing the censorship, GoDaddy's like, well, we can't do anything. It's your platform. I didn't pay to go through Vimeo, but they don't care. I don't use GoDaddy. Just move on.
Okay.
to something else.
So friends, just so you're aware, hopefully you realize if you've been paying attention, this is a trend. This Conversion Practices Ban Act seeking to outlaw conversion therapy. And you got to put that in air quotes because they have misdefined or misrepresented what that is when you're counseling a confused or suicidal youth or teenager. But let's go to one more. Let's end with at least one good news story, and that's out of Nebraska, George, the 29th state, and I hope there's many, many, many more, to protect girls' sports. This is something that I think, at least it's over a majority of the states, but this is something that You're hearing stories. I just saw an article with a video with two of the young ladies who won, I think, second and third place, but they wouldn't stand on the podium because a transgender won. Was it high jumping or it was a track event? And so they were told to move away. If you're not going to stand up on the level, the podium with places, you got to get out of the picture. So they said, they won, but they said, all right. So two girls got together and said, I'm not going to stand. Good. So now, good. More women, young women, are doing what pastors and parents and responsible citizens should be doing, calling this out and saying, you are robbing girls of scholarships, of accomplishments, of medals. Go ahead, George, your thoughts.
Again, if this infuriates you, but you vote Democrat, don't complain. I'm gonna always take it home to the Democrats. If you're sick and tired of what you're seeing in this country, but you vote Democrat, it doesn't mean the Republicans are perfect, but the Democrats are pushing these policies. I don't know how many times I have to say this. So if you vote Democrat, do not say one word. Y'all have no one to blame but yourselves.
One more thing. Actually, shewon.org says since 2008, they've cataloged 2,242 female athletes losing out on 3,126 medals to males, to biological boys or males, in over 1,000 competitions in 46 different sports. The website has tracked almost 900 first place finishes in women's competitions that have been claimed by males who identify as transgender, and that goes on. So you want to look that one up. That's over at thewashingtonstand.com. So go Nebraska, go other states to protect girls' sports. George, you've got a minute. Would love to hear just your final encouragement for parents to not only wake up, but speak up, whatever else you want to say to encourage them.
I just want to say to people, in my book, I discuss the reality of that lifestyle. And if you think that supporting this is helping them, it's not. It's actually harming them. It's a dangerous and destructive lifestyle. I'm not X-rated, but I don't sugarcoat it. We must tell them the truth of God's word in love. They need to know that God can transform their lives, that they can get out of that bondage, and God is doing it with so many ex-LGBT individuals. It's just sad that the media will not cover our stories because it goes against the narrative. But we must fight this agenda.
Yes, and that's part of the conflicting information out there because the media won't cover the positive stories like the Christian stories or that angle, the biblical truth angle. But George, thank you so much. I always love your commentary, brother. Again, GeorgeCarneal.com, and check out his book. We will, Lord willing, do this again soon.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Friends, God bless you, and as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter. See you next time.